the North Planning Committee. Thank you, gentlemen. I'm Councillor Eddie Labour, Committee Chairman. Can I have apologies for absence first, please?
Apologies from Councillor Catrell, Chairman.
Thank you. Any declarations of interest? No. I have minutes from just the 10th of January, I think, on this one. Can I take those as agreed? Thank you. There are no matters notified as urgent, but item 931, Frithwood Avenue, was withdrawn from the agenda by the Head of Planning, so that is not being considered tonight. So we are considering items 6, 7, 8 in Part 1, and there is an enforcement matter in Part 2, and will be taken in private. I think the petitioners that are here tonight probably very well understand how this place works, so I'm going to truncate the rules of tonight. There's one petition item, which is the first item. Following the officer presentation, petitioners get 5 minutes, as you were expecting. Watch the traffic lights, because Amber tells you you've got a minute left, and then you're done. I'm not sure if there's anyone here on behalf of the agent or the applicant for the first one, but they have a right to speak. There are no ward councillors intending well, yes, a couple of them may be on committee, but there's none of them coming as ward councillors tonight. The voting members of committee tonight are Councillor Graham, Councillor Zuku, Councillor Flynn, Councillor Higgins, Councillor Morgan, and then Councillor Dillon and Councillor Oswald. Got an even number? No, we haven't, so they can't manage to get a tie tonight. Well, you can if you start staining, guys, but yeah, kind of just vote with this. Okay, the officer team tonight, Manmahan Ranger is doing highways. Kalashevsky, there you go. I'll get it right eventually, but you'll have to keep coming. That helps me, is presenting tonight. Mandeep Malhotra is standing in for James Roger and will advise us. Neil Fraser from Democratic Services is my clerk. Roisin Hogan is a legal officer if we need one. Can I please go therefore direct to item 6 for Willow End, Northwood?
Thank you, Chairman. This application seeks retrospective plan permission for the erection of an external timber staircase to the front of the side extension leading to a gateway and given access onto the pathway to the side of the property. I'll just take members through the photos of what's actually being built, which will explain things more clearly. I can't quite see there. So if I zoom in, you can see, as I go through the photos, you can sort of see where the staircase is. That is the staircase. As you go further back, you can see it to the right-hand side of the garage. Just, if you actually look, there we go, if I zoom, excuse me. So if you actually look at the what's built, you've got the stairs that lead up to an alleyway at the back of the houses. Now, this alleyway is actually a public right-of-way and not an adopted public highway. The importance of that being that the actual gate, which you'll have clearly you can see on the photos, but the gate that has been installed to the public right-of-way would normally actually be permitted development, so would not need planning permission as it's less than 2 metres in height from ground level. The rest of the structure does actually need permission. However, they could put steps into the embankment itself, and that would be PD as well. The proposed staircase is situated immediately adjacent to the recently constructed rear extension, which you might just be able to make behind the staircase. Again, the shadowing's not very good. And in relation to the scale of the original dwelling, is relatively minor. As such, it's not considered that it would fundamentally reduce the openness of the greenbelt in this location. Concerns have been raised about the visual impact of the staircase. However, Northwood is set on a hillside and quite a number of properties are set at different levels. Although wooden steps are not generally seen at the front of properties or to the side, as in this case, there are many examples of stone or brick steps. Wooden steps are also seen often to the side or rear of properties. The main visual impact of these stairs is due to the bright colour of the new timber, which could be addressed with a dark brown staining to match the stained wooden features of the main dwelling. Now, we have condition 2 that's proposed, which requires that within 3 months of approval, should it be approved, details of the staining would have to be submitted. Now, we're proposing a slight alteration to that condition so that it also states they have to actually do that, which at the moment the condition doesn't do that. So what we're proposing is that they have to actually implement the approved staining within 3 months of the approval. The landscape officer has advised that the bank should be landscaped. That's what we've condition 3 proposed. This would also help mitigate any impact on the visual amenity of the street scene. These details could be conditioned, which we're proposing to be submitted as all other aspects of the proposal were acceptable. Therefore, on balance, it is considered that the proposal would not significantly harm the character or appearance of the subject property or the wider area of spatial local character. For the reasons summarised, it is recommended that the application be approved. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Matt. We have a petition on this one. Mayor Thacker?
Yeah.
Would you like to take a seat at the table? If you press the button on the middle of the microphone, it will illuminate and then your voice will be recorded. And of course, this is on the council's YouTube website, so your voice will be heard and you will be seen at this point. So if you press that button now for me, that would be good to light the microphone up. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Maya Thacker. I am the director of Willow End Residence. I live right across, but that's not relevant in this situation. What the concern we have is that this estate has been around for 25 years, and the ambience of Gate Hill residence is a private estate, so is Willow End. And we are truly concerned with the ambience of the place. It doesn't fit in within the whole parameter of the estate. It just does not look right. We also have security aspect, which perhaps doesn't concern you from a planning point of view. But there is an issue. There are lots of burglaries going on in that estate because there is a public path. And we do worry about this. That is not perhaps that significant from your point of view, once again I repeat, but it's the ambience of the whole estate where people live and are worried about having lived there for so many number of years that something like this can happen, which just simply doesn't fit in, doesn't look right. We have to preserve our estate, and we are not able to do it. I mean, I saw the pictures again. I live right across it, and I see it, and it's quite ugly. It really is ugly. It doesn't fit in. The property itself has not been maintained properly. Not at all. There is no work done on that property for a number of years. This extension bit, which doesn't worry me, and I'm not talking about from a resident's point of view. There are 8 other people who live in that estate, and none of them are happy with what is going on. And I see no mileage in this coming out, going back into the public path and going back into the house. What is that fair? Is that right? Is that how it should be? I don't get it. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Do members have any questions before I let the petitioner go? Councillor Oswald?
Thank you very much, Chairman. Yeah, thanks very much for your petition. Looking at the OS map, it looks as though the rear of number 4, that staircase leads to a pathway. Would I be right in saying that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and how many properties does that pathway behind the houses serve? Is it 3? Is it 2, 3 and 4?
4.
And number 1 as well?
No, just number 4.
Just number 4?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other questions? No, thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Anyone here on behalf of the owner, agent, applicant for this one? Thank you. You can, go back. No, nobody's raising a hand, therefore I'm taking that as a no. Members, please. Councillor Higgins.
Where do I start? Okay. In principle of having a staircase leading to the back, I'm not really that au fait, but there is so much more they could have done to make it more harmonised. It looks like a staircase that's been taken out of someone's house and then put it in the front garden. It's just ridiculous. And how we can say that that is in keeping is beyond me. So I cannot support this recommendation.
I tend to agree 100%. It's not in keeping with the appearance of the estate. You could have just banked it and made a stone staircase, which would look much better. It's horrible.
Okay. Any other view? I mean, it's the set of steps is the only thing we've got any control over, because obviously the platform and gate are PD, aren't they? Or could be PD. So steps only. Okay. 2 views. Councillor Flynn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's one of those where, I was reading the papers and I just thought, a few steps didn't really seem to have an issue with this, but when one sees it, it's a very different proposition. I've got a couple of questions I'd like to just ask the officers. Firstly, do they know, as particularly as the applicant's not here tonight, what the reason for having these stairs is? Is there a good public policy reason from the people who own the property for having a staircase like this? Secondly, was any attempt made to try and get them to use materials that would have been more suitable, so things like stone rather than this wood, which I think we all agree is not really in keeping? And thirdly, is there anything, I appreciate the condition around the colouring of the wood, but if this consent was passed this evening, would there be any thing to stop someone coming along in a few years' time and painting it pink or something like that? I appreciate there's a condition there, but
the condition would
last forever,
yeah.
would it? Okay, well that answers that point, but I've got 2 other points I'd appreciate some clarification.
Your 2 points are valid. Obviously, bear in mind, guys, when we're looking at this one, you've got to look at it as if it is stained appropriately, rather than just because at the moment it really stands out because of the light wood, and if it was stained in a dark colour, what would you think? So that's your question. I'm not trying to persuade minds. I'm just trying to be absolutely clear. Matt, could you just answer those 2 questions for me?
Thank you, Chairman. The first question, the reason for the steps, what the applicant has told the council is that they want to have access to their back garden. So they pop up the steps, go through their gate, walk down the public right-of-way, and they've got another gate that lets them in.
Acceptable, yes or no? And I don't think it's much more complicated than that. Councillor Higgins is definitely a no.
Definitely no, and I'd like to go for a refusal.
Okay, can I hold that for a second before Councillor Flynn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree actually with Councillor Oswell. I think the balustrades are the deal breaker for me. So that it's just the size of it. As we see from the street, you can see it very clearly. It's not subtle. It's not hidden, even with a bit of landscaping. I just think it's the balustrades are the killer for me. So.
The other suggestion the officers have just given me, if we conditioned it that you take the balustrade out, does that make a difference to enough people? Councillor Higgins?
No, because the reason they're there is because someone needs them to get up there. You don't put balustrades. If it was my house, I wouldn't put balustrades because I don't need them. But maybe they have elder residents that need to get up and around, so that's probably why it's there. So, are we then saying that if we took them away and they fell off it, would that be then come back to us as responsibility for them getting hurt?
No, I mean, Councillor Dillon?
The landscaping, would the bank then be made to follow the steps, as it were. Because if it followed the steps and you had the bank then grassed and then painted without the balustrades, it would almost hide.
Steps would disappear.
Steps, yeah.
That's a
But-
suggestion.
Is that
You know what the landscaping is going to do?
Yeah. Well, until the aim of the condition is we're not looking to necessarily change the slope of the embankment, but we approve planting that is big enough to cover that side of the balustrade and the wooden base, if you like, so you don't actually see it. That's the whole point. We wouldn't necessarily be asking them to change the embankment if that was part of the landscape proposal, and so be it. But at present, the thought process is that the plants themselves would cover the steps.
I'm going to move this one in a moment. Councillor Oswald?
Yeah, thanks very much, Chairman. Yeah, I don't really want to drag this out too much longer.
I think we've got about as much out of this as we possibly can.
What I'm thinking, Chairman, is that have we got any room here for negotiation? If this is compliant with our policies, then I think it's going to be difficult for us to refuse it, simply because I think maybe the appeal system would allow it. So what I'm going to ask, if we could possibly defer this to see if there's any room for negotiation with the applicant, and see if we can't do something a little bit better with that staircase, so that it becomes more acceptable to us, because I don't think that we like this. That seems to
That's
be...
what I'm about.
Right,
That's the feeling I've got, yeah.
Apart from what the petitioners said, what we've got to deal with is what's in front of us, and it's in this report. So if there's any room for negotiation, I'm just wondering... I'll move deferment.
Well, let's just get a little bit of advice first to see if that's a sensible course of action.
I think I'd agree that that would be acceptable, but you would require a full reconsultation, because the proposal is actually for the retention of this timber staircase. So the reconsultation would give members of the public the opportunity to comment on what were technically different proposals to the current, but it could be done on the same application.
All I'm trying to do, Chairman, is try and find a happy medium here that suits everybody. Maybe even the petitioners.
I think there's merit. I do worry that it'll be interesting to see whether we can formulate a strong enough planning reason that would hold, and an inspector might well look at this and go, 2 and 3 will do. I think it's worth a shot to see if the applicant will do some work to it to make it more acceptable. I think that's worth a shot.
Can we get some ideas of what they think?
Yeah. I think what we're looking at, if I can pick up a summary of committee thoughts and tell me if I'm wrong, guys, we're looking at something that either gets rid of the top of those balustrades or certainly makes the whole thing much less visible, so it may need changes to that bank in terms of soft landscaping. Certainly that colour needs to become something that blends in with the place and not stands out from the place. Anything else? If that was achieved, would that... Materials, are we... I don't think people are entirely comfortable with the wood, but there's a limit to how far we're going to get here. If we're asking for too much, we're almost refusing it. So if we go down this road, you're almost saying we live with the wood as long as it's sorted out. But I'm giving you 2 alternatives, guys, but I want to move it forward.
I mean, well, I've moved deferment.
You moved deferment. Anyone going to second that?
Yeah, I
You're right. Okay. I've moved and seconded. Thank you. All those in favour of deferment, show me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. And Councillor Higgins is a no, or sitting on his hands. Is a no. So 6-1, it gets deferred. That does me. Okay. I move to another retrospective. 39 Highfield Drive. But this one is a retrospective, but proposing changes effectively. Matt, go on.
Thank you, Chairman. The proposed development seeks to rationalise existing extensions to the building. I'll just flick through to the photos for members. A number of which are unlawful. The following alterations will be made to the building as it currently stands. A step down in the roof, eaves and ridge height of the hipped side extension, and removal of first floor windows on the flank elevation, and bringing in of the front elevation of the extension further in from the site frontage. Removal of the single storey extension to the front of the dwelling on the southern side of the 2-storey hipped roof projection, and the repositioning of the dormer within the rear roof slope and removal of a rear-facing dormer on the side extension. Now, if I just show members what I actually mean by all that, because it's quite confusing. So if you look, sorry, I don't know what a pointer is on here, but I'll try and find it. Oh, there it is. So in terms of stepping down, this is the side extension from the front. At the moment, the ridge line just goes all the way across the building, and what they're proposing to do is to step that down. They're getting rid of this element, and on the rear, I can just find the rear. This gives you a better idea actually. So you can see the ridge line goes all the way across. So that bit on the right hand side, which you can't quite see, will be stepped down to look more subordinate. And on the rear, this huge dormer is going to be far smaller. It's actually going to be stepped down. I've got the plans here, which I'll just talk you through, if you bear with me. So the top line here is what the house looked like before any of the extensions were built. You can see where the extension is at the front. There was a cat slide roof with a garage underneath it. I'll go back one slide. This, what you can see here, is what's been built and what you were looking at in the photos. Right across there with the big dormer, as you can see. And then if I go back to here, this is what they're proposing. So here you can see the step down. Here you can see that they've removed the front extension, and on the back you can actually see the dormer is set down and is far smaller than what's being built. Current proposal is significantly different to what has been constructed on site. The inspector for the previous appeal accepted that the appearance of the front dormer extension was acceptable, and no previous reason for refusal related to this aspect of the development. So we feel that that's acceptable. Overall, the amended scheme is considered to overcome the previous reasons for refusal and would now be sympathetic to design, scale, form and proportion of the original property. As a result, it would no longer appear over-dominant or incongruous in the street scene. In terms of impact on neighbours, the proposed development complies with standards set out within the Council's SPD for residential extensions, in that no parts of the proposed extension would come within 15 metres of the front or rear elevations of any neighbouring dwellings within a 45-degree splay. For the reasons summarised, it is recommended that the application be approved. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Dick.
It's said that every Englishman's home is their castle. He might have taken this a little literally. I move with officers' recommendations. It needs to be calmed down.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Higgins.
Yeah. Second, I still can't believe that the inspector allowed that front dormer, but there you go. It's just beyond me.
He did, so was ducked. All those in favour, please show. Yeah, just about, I think. Yeah, just about, yeah. That one's approved. We have a nice simple change of use at New Pond Parade, Weston Road, from A1 to A5, with a note of a food hygiene informative in the addendum, and Matt will tell us the rest of it.
Thank you, Chairman. As the Chairman has just said, it's an application that seeks permission for the change of use of an A1 shop to an A5 food takeaway, together with the installation of an extractor fan to the rear of the property. You can see in red where the property is there. Some more plans, I'll just go through them. And you can actually, in this elevation here, it's very difficult to see, but if I can get the points out, the extractor is there. It actually comes through the building and comes out at the back. There's the property. The application site is an A1 used class retail unit located at ground floor level on the east side of a service road which abuts Weston Road. The unit forms part of the Ruislip Gardens parade of shops in the Ruislip Northwood area. The principle of change of use from A1 to A5 is considered acceptable and is in accordance with policies S6 and S7. Based on surveys carried out by the planning officer, it is considered the replacement of one A1 use class unit would not result in an area deficient in essential shop uses. In terms of the flue, the proposed extraction duct measures 0.5 metres in height and would project 5 metres out from the rear of the building line of the unit. This would be located 3.4 metres above the ground level. The rear of the application site comprises of the service yard serving the commercial premises and the rear boundary wall of the Ruislip High School playing fields. Whilst the duct is considerable in size, given its location to the rear yard and limited visibility from any vantage points, it is considered to be acceptable. In terms of impact on any neighbours, the extractor will utilise a baffle filter which controls grease produced, a carbon filter for grease and odour control, and a silencer for noise reduction, and a variable speed control. Therefore, it's considered that it would not have any impact on neighbouring properties. Going to the addendum, we've got a food hygiene informative that we're going to add, and also just to point out that we've actually put in the wrong reference number on there in case anyone's noticed. For those reasons, it is recommended that the application be approved.
Councillor Higgins.
Yeah, so I have a question for us. I'm glad, Matt, that you talked about the actually requirements of the extractor unit. I know that some of my residents have complained about a similar situation where a new restaurant's come in with flats above, and the applicant decides not to put the thing that he's told everybody's putting in, and it rattles and it makes a noise. Do we have any control after the event? I mean, hopefully, I'm not saying that this gentleman or people will do the same thing, but it is one of those things that is concerning. It becomes really quite a stressful situation for the residents. Residents realise that there's shops underneath, and they are willing to do that, but there is this underground thing that happens.
Could I suggest that the planning condition should pick that up? Because this is now there were some that were approved some time ago where the conditions were nowhere near as tight as these ones that are here on this, which have got noise, ducting and vibration and everything else in them. Is that okay? Councillor Oswald?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I'll second that. I mean, obviously, if this does all go wrong and it starts to cause a problem, then, I mean, it's just a case for environmental health and antisocial behaviour as well. So we can deal with it anyway, but hopefully we can tighten it up on by way of conditions, and I hope that it will be fine. I think it's good to bring something back into use, isn't it?
Suzuki, do you want to add anything?
This is my neck of the woods. I'm just aware that on this road, we already have a fish and chip shop, a Chinese, a kebab shop, a burger place, and also a Wenzel's. So I'm just curious, do we know what this is?
Indian, actually. It's not an Indian.
Excellent. Okay, nice to know we got an Indian coming.
I don't necessarily think we do, because it doesn't actually make any difference to our approval, of course. Councillor Morgan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I've just got one question. I'm not against it. I just want to know, because it's very difficult to see on these plans, where the extractor fan or the extractor is coming out, and how close that is to the windows of the flats above.
Doesn't it come out across the storage yard?
It's 5 metres away from the window. If I just show you here.
It's coming out. It sounds like it comes right out across the storage yard.
So this section here that you see is the 3-storey element with the flats above here, and this is a single-storey rear element, and the extractor comes out through there, and you can't actually quite see on here because it's.
But you said 5 metres from the rear of the building,
from the
so
rear
it's
quite,
quite.
And it comes out here, so the smells would come out.
Yeah, which answers your query that it's not on top of the residence, which is the other problem we get with these. Yeah. We've got it proposed and seconded. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. That one's approved. We're about to move into part 2. Can I please ask that the YouTube feed is switched off?